in neuroanatomy, that is cerebellum. Another very important topic, so let's discuss about that in detail. And the planning, how we are going to study about cerebellum is, first let us see the external features of the cerebellum, all the different types of lobes and all, and its classification. And then we'll go inside the cerebellum then. We'll see the internal features, okay. So first, let us see the cerebellum from the outer side. Now, in the cerebellum, there will be first of all a worm-like structure in the middle, and that is nothing but vermis part. That is your vermis part. And this vermis, yes, on either side, it will be attached along with the cerebellar hemispheres. So, same like cerebral hemispheres, we also have got like the cerebellar hemispheres. So, there will be vermis part along with the cerebellar hemispheres. Now, in this vermis part, it is divided to like many parts, guys. Like so many parts are there, but you don't have to remember the names of all of them. You just have to remember like few names, which I am actually mentioning here. Number one, this part here will be the lingula part of the vermis, and this part of the vermis here will be the nodule. This is known as the nodule here, and nodule of the vermis will be attached with one more part here, which is referred to as flocculus. And this flocculus and the nodule, these two together are referred to as flocculonodular lobe. These two are together referred to as flocculonodular lobe here. Perfect. So, remember about the lingula part, and then remember the nodule. The nodule will be attached to the flocculus part, flocculus along with the nodule together, flocculonodular lobe. Simple. Then apart from that, I want you to remember one more name here, that will be your pyramid and uvula. So, there is a part here which is referred to as pyramid, and this part here is actually referred to as uvula, whatever you love to say. So, as I told you, like there are so many names, parts in the vermis, but you don't have to remember all of them. Whatever has been mentioned here, try to remember them. Then apart from that, what about the cerebellar hemispheres here? The cerebellar hemisphere, they are divided into a small anterior lobe. There will be a small anterior lobe, and then there will be a big posterior lobe here, guys. There will be a big posterior lobe. Perfect. This is what you have to remember. Now, in this, like what type of questions that will be asked in the exam? Let us see the classification of the cerebellum. Okay. So, let's see the classification of all these parts. Basically, the cerebellum, all the parts of cerebellum are divided into three categories here. Number one, you will be having arcade cerebellum, the oldest part of the cerebellum. The name itself is telling arcade cerebellum is nothing but the oldest part of the cerebellum. Then the next to appear here will be the paleocerebellum, and then the recent one will be the neocerebellum, the advanced one will be the neocerebellum. So, I think it is very simple to remember with the name itself, that arcade cerebellum, the paleocerebellum and the neocerebellum part. Then remember the another name also, the arcade cerebellum, it is also referred to as vestibular cerebellum. Arcade cerebellum, it is also referred to as vestibular cerebellum. Paleocerebellum, it is also known as the spinal cerebellum. And then finally, the neocerebellum. Neocerebellum is the one which is also known as cerebral cerebellum. Neo, the advanced one. Now, once you have learned the names of this one, arcade cerebellum, also known as the vestibular cerebellum, the paleocerebellum is also known as the spinal cerebellum, and then the neocerebellum, it is also known as the cerebral cerebellum. Done. Now, once you are done with all these names here, now you have to learn in this diagram whatever parts we have mentioned here, out of all these parts, like which parts of the cerebellum belongs to which category, like which is the earliest one to appear, arcade cerebellum, the first one to appear, then the paleocerebellum next to appear, and then the neocerebellum. So, out of all the parts of cerebellum, we need to categorize them, classify them according to this classification here. So, now my dear doctors, remember arcade cerebellum, that is the first one to appear or the oldest part to appear. Arcade cerebellum, this is the one which will include number one, the lingula, And along with the lingula, it is also going to include the flocculonodular lobe. Flocculonodular lobe. So, lingula and the flocculonodular lobe are included under archaeocerebellum category. Now, the next to appear here will be the paleocerebellum. The next to appear here will be the paleocerebellum, and the paleocerebellum, it is the one which will include the anterior lobe. It will include the anterior lobe, and along with the anterior lobe, it is also going to include the pyramid and uvula. Pyramid and uvula. Paleocerebellum. And now the advanced one, that is your neocerebellum. The neocerebellum, it is the one which is going to include the big posterior lobe. Okay, it is going to include the posterior lobe, but except what? Except the pyramid and the uvula. Why? Because it is already included in which category, guys? That is nothing but the paleocerebellum category. So it is going to include the posterior lobe except the pyramid and uvula. The pyramid and uvula. Perfect. So that is about the classification of the cerebellum. First of all, that is the thing that you have to learn, the external features. Now, once you are comfortable with this classification of the cerebellum here, now we are ready to go inside the cerebellum and let's learn all the structures which has to be learned in detail for your exams. So first of all, I'll do one thing here. I'll give you the entire planning here, how we are going to approach this topic. We are using the same diagram from the very beginning of the neuroanatomy. So that's your brain stem, which is including the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata, and then this one here is cerebellum here. The first point that I want you all to remember is that the midbrain is joining with the cerebellum here with the help of peduncle, cerebellar peduncle, and that too superior cerebellar peduncle, and the pons with the cerebellum, that is middle cerebellar peduncle, and medulla oblongata is joining with the cerebellum with the help of inferior cerebellar peduncle. So all these three structures that I have written here are nothing but your cerebellar peduncle. It is not cerebral peduncle, it is cerebellar peduncle, and we have actually come across the cerebral peduncle in transverse section of the midbrain, tectum, tegmentum, and the cerebral peduncle there. But here it is cerebellar peduncle. Have a clarity between that. So I repeat again, the midbrain is joining with the cerebellum with the help of superior cerebellar peduncle. The pons joins with the cerebellum with the help of middle cerebellar peduncle, and the medulla oblongata is joining with the help of inferior cerebellar peduncle. So we got to learn about these cerebellar peduncles, like which tracts are going inside the cerebellum and which tracts are coming outside. So we got to learn like afferents and efferent tracts. They are going to of course enter from cerebellar peduncle only, and that is the reason why nowadays like many questions are being asked like which tract is going to pass through superior or the middle or inferior cerebellar peduncle. We'll learn about that one. Then apart from that, once the tracts will enter inside you have to learn about the grey matter. Okay, so on the outer part of the cerebellum, you'll be having that grey matter, and that grey matter is referred to as cerebellar cortex. So we are going to learn about the cerebellar cortex. Then apart from the cerebellar cortex, you also have some deep nuclei here. There will be totally 4 of them. So we are going to learn about the deep nuclei. Deep nuclei here, and finally connecting all of this here, you also have the white matter present over here. So we are going to learn about the white matter of cerebellum also. I'll tell you about those afferent and efferent fibers, don't worry about that. So on the outer side you'll be having the grey matter. That grey matter is nothing but cerebellar cortex. On the inner side you have to learn about the white matter, and then the deep nuclei and the peduncles which are connecting with that. So in short, the planning here is that we have to learn about 4 topics here. Number 1, the cerebellar cortex. Number 2, we have to learn about the nuclei, the deep nuclei. Number 3, the white matter, and number 4, the cerebellar peduncles. We just have to memorize like which tracts are going in and out of the cerebellum there, guys. Perfect. So let us first start with the cerebellar cortex here, the outermost part of the cerebellum, that is cerebellar cortex. So let's begin with cerebellar cortex. Now the first thing to remember here is that the cerebellar cortex is actually having 3 layers in that. It is made up of 3 layers, And in those 3 layers, we have got 5 different types of cells. I repeat again, in the outermost part of cerebellum, that is cerebellar cortex, it is arranged in 3 layers. And in those 3 layers, we are having 5 different types of cells. So let me first of all tell you the names of these layers. The outermost layer is known as the molecular layer. And then the middle layer is actually known as the Purkinje layer. Middle layer is Purkinje layer. And the innermost layer, the inner layer, is actually the granular layer. Innermost layer will be the granular layer. So first learn the names of these layers. I repeat again, the outermost layer will be the molecular layer, the middle layer will be the Purkinje layer, and the innermost layer will be actually the granular layer. And as I said you, in all these 3 layers, we'll be having like 5 different types of cells. Now let us write down the names of the cells here. In the outermost molecular layer, we'll be having the stellate cells and basket cells. And in the middle Purkinje layer, you'll be actually having Purkinje cells. Purkinje layer, you'll be having Purkinje cells. And the granular layer will be having granule cells and Golgi cells. Granule cells and Golgi cells, guys. Wow. I think this is the best way of writing this one here. You can clearly see on the screen over there, we are done with all the 3 layers, and that too we are done with all the 5 types of cells. And not only that 5 types of cells, we are also done with like which layer will have which type of cells. So try to make the notes in a very simple manner. Don't try to write like paragraph there, guys. So all the 3 layers and then 5 types of cells, and in which layer we have got which type of cell. Easy to remember. So outermost layer we have stellate and basket, the middle layer we have got Purkinje cells, and then innermost layer will be having the granule cells. Perfect. Now welcome to the diagram right now. So let's make the diagram for this one here. So what I am going to do here is that you just try to imagine from this big diagram, that we are just taking a small part of the cerebellar cortex out. This cerebellar cortex, we are going to take a part of that out. So imagine this one here to be your cerebellum here. Okay, this one here will be the cerebellar cortex part, and it is divided into how many layers, sir? It is divided into 3 layers. The molecular layer, the Purkinje layer, and innermost one will be the granular layer. Now out of this, remember, the outermost layer will be having the stellate cells and the basket cells. I'll just write down in short here as S for stellate cells and B for basket cells. And it's so easy to remember that stellate cells will be actually star shaped, and stars are very high. So therefore in the outermost layer we'll be having stellate cells, the star shaped cells. Then in the middle layer we'll be actually having the Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells, they'll be actually flask shaped, and they are reaching to the outer molecular layer. Then not only to that, they are also reaching deep inside into the deep nuclei also. And remember here itself, guys, about the Purkinje cells. Out of all the 5 different types of cells, question number 1, which is the largest one? The Purkinje cells. Out of all the 5 different types of cells, the largest cells will be the Purkinje cells. And number 2, remember the shape also, they are like flask shaped. The Purkinje cells are actually flask shaped, largest and flask shaped. And then finally the innermost layer, that is your granular layer, will be having granular cells. And granular cells, what is going to happen here? Yes, they are the one which are going to climb up, reach up, and they are going to form the synapse with the Purkinje cells only. I'll tell you the reason for this one, don't worry. So this one will be the granular cells, and finally you will be having one more type of cells here, that is nothing but your Golgi cells. So Golgi and granular cells in the granular layer, Purkinje cells will be in the Purkinje layer, the stellate and basket cells will be in the outermost layer, that is molecular layer. So that is a diagram, a small schematic diagram for understanding about the cerebellar cortex. Now after drawing the diagram here, let us do one thing here. Let's try to recall like what are the questions that has been asked in the previous years. Let's try to solve the MCQs here. Number 1, remember that all the cells which are present here are inhibitory. Like stellate cells are inhibitory cells, Basket cells are inhibitory cells. Purkinje cells are also inhibitory neurons only, and even Golgi are also inhibitory. The only one which is excitatory will be the granular cells. Granular cells are the only cells which are excitatory cells. So remember, the only excitatory cells in the cerebellar cortex, the only excitatory cells in the cerebellar cortex is nothing but your granular cells. Granular cells are the only excitatory cells, remaining all are inhibitory. So therefore, a beautiful MCQ here. Remember, cerebellar cortex is the largest collection of inhibitory neurons. It is the largest collection of inhibitory neurons in your entire central nervous system, entire CNS. So the largest collection of inhibitory neurons in the entire central nervous system will be cerebellar cortex. Cerebellar cortex. Okay. Next one. Next point here, the important one here. Out of all these 5 different types of cells, which are the cells which are acting like efferents? Which are the cells which are acting like efferents? So remember, the efferent from cerebellar cortex, which is going to take the information out. The efferent from cerebellar cortex is Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells. Now, I want you to please concentrate on the word cerebellar cortex here. That's important. The efferent from cerebellar cortex is Purkinje cell. Now, why am I asking you to focus on that word cerebellar cortex? Why? Because, we'll come back to this diagram here. For example, if you have got the Purkinje cells over here, Purkinje cells are the efferents from cerebellar cortex. They are going to carry the information, the nerve impulse to the deep nuclei. And deep nuclei are the one which are going to carry the information out of the cerebellum. So you got to be like really careful. In the exam, are they asking you the efferent from only the cerebellar cortex or from the entire cerebellum? Question number 1. Efferent from cerebellar cortex, cortex only, Purkinje cell. Question number 2. Efferent from the entire cerebellum, then your answer has to be the deep nuclei. So you got to be like really careful. Let us write down like one more statement here. What will be the efferents from cerebellum? If the question is entire cerebellum, then your answer has to be the deep nuclei. Hope now you got the clarity here. If it is only the cerebellar cortex, then the efferent will be Purkinje cells. But if it is the entire cerebellum, then the efferents will be the deep nuclei. Perfect. So these many MCQs are here that you have to remember about the cerebellar cortex here, guys. So if you are following my planning here, first we are done with the cerebellar cortex, the outermost part of the cerebellum, 3 layers, 5 different types of cells, and some important MCQs that you have to remember for your exam. Now, after completing this, let us go to the second category. Let's learn about the white matter fibers. The white matter. Gray matter done. Then let's learn about the white matter. Like what are the afferents? What are the afferents which are going to enter into the cerebellum? So let us learn about the afferents of cerebellum. The afferents of cerebellum, the fibers which are going to enter into the cerebellum, they are divided into 2 categories of fibers. We have got like mossy fibers and then the climbing fibers. The mossy fibers and the climbing fibers. So afferents of the cerebellum, the fibers which are going into the cerebellum are divided into 2 categories, the mossy fibers and the climbing fibers. I will tell you the difference between them, and I'll also tell you like which tracts are included under mossy and which tracts are included under the climbing fibers. Let's draw the same diagram again, sir. So for example, if this one here will be the cerebellar cortex divided into the molecular layer, the Purkinje layer and the granular layer. In the Purkinje layer, you will be having that largest flask shaped cells, that is your Purkinje cell, and the fibers of the Purkinje cells are reaching to the molecular layer above, and even the fibers are reaching up to the deep nuclei, here. I am just writing here as deep nuclei. Perfect. Now, what is the difference between these climbing fibers and the mossy fibers? The name itself is telling you here, guys, the climbing fibers. For example, climbing fibers. The climbing fibers are going to climb all the way from the granular layer, the Purkinje layer, and then they are going to reach to the molecular layer and they are going to synapse with Purkinje cells. That is why they are known as the climbing fibers. Okay. Now, what about the mossy fibers then? The mossy fibers, they are unable to climb all the way up to the molecular layer. No, they are reaching only and only up to the granular layer. Then what's happening from here? From here, another group of cells. Which group of cells? Granular cells. They are going to form the synapse here, and they are the only excitatory cell. And these granular cells are the one which are going to carry the information up to the molecular layer and forming the synapse with the Purkinje cells. Understanding? So that is why mossy fibers are going only up to the granular. Climbing fibers are going all the way up to the molecular layer. And whatever the synapse is formed here, the synapse which is formed here in the granular layer between the mossy fibers and the granular cells, this is referred to as cerebellar glomeruli. Cerebellar glomeruli. Wow. I hope you are able to appreciate here in this innermost layer, almost everything starts with the G only. Granular cells, Golgi cells, the layer itself is known as the granular layer, and then glomeruli. So that is nothing but the cerebellar glomeruli. Perfect. Now the last and final thing here to end this one, the white matter fibers here. Which fibers are the climbing fibers? The climbing fibers are going to include which one here? Number one, it will include the olivocerebellar tract. It is going to include the olivocerebellar tract. And number two, it is also going to include the para-olivocerebellar tract. Para-olivocerebellar tract. So these are the tracts which are included under which category, guys? The climbing fibers, going all the way up to the molecular layer. And leaving these two tracts, except these two, remaining all the tracts are included under which category? There is nothing but the mossy fibers. It's so easy to remember. So mossy fibers will be including like which fibers? Okay, all other tracts except the climbing fibers. I think that is the best way to remember. So olivocerebellar tract and the para-olivocerebellar tract, or which will be carried by the climbing fibers. Rest all will be carried by the mossy fibers. That is the story that you have to remember regarding the white matter. So we are done with the grey matter, we are done with the white matter. Now welcome to the topic number 3 here, that is deep nuclei. Now let's study about the deep nuclei of cerebellum. How many deep nuclei do you have in the cerebellum here, guys? There are totally 4 deep nuclei in the cerebellum. And all these 4 deep nuclei of the cerebellum, you are going to remember with the mnemonic as doctors eat good food. All these 4 deep nuclei, remember with the mnemonic as doctors eat good food. Dentate nucleus, emboliform nucleus, fastigial nucleus, and then the globosal nucleus. Dentate, emboliform, globosal and fastigial nucleus, the 4 of them. And again, let's draw a diagram for this one here. Just a schematic diagram here, guys, cerebellar hemispheres. And the nuclei present deep inside this, first of all, the dentate nucleus here. And you can appreciate the shape there. It is like crumpled paperback appearance. And try to recall in the neuroanatomy, somewhere else also, I told you about crumpled paperback shape. And that was inferior olivary nucleus. So remember, inferior olivary nucleus and dentate nucleus, same. It is like crumpled paperback appearance. And then you have got the emboliform, and then the globosal, and then you have got the fastigial. So what I am trying to convey here, what I am trying to tell you here, they are actually arranged in the same order. The first you have got the dentate, doctors, then eat, that is your emboliform, and then G here, G for globosal, and then fastigial. So if you remember that one mnemonic, you are even able to remember the names of the nuclei as well as their arrangement also. Name of the nuclei as well as arrangement. So better remember with the help of that mnemonic. Come on, let us write down the names right now. So this largest nucleus here will be the dentate nucleus. Dentate nucleus. Then this here will be the emboliform nucleus. Emboliform nucleus. And then this one here will be the globose nucleus. Globose or globosal nucleus. And then finally this one here will be the fastigial nucleus. Fastigial nucleus. Perfect. Now after learning their names and their arrangement, now let us learn what are the important MCQs that you got to know for your exams. Out of all the 4 nuclei, which is the largest nucleus? That's your dentate nucleus. Which is the lateral most nucleus in the arrangement? Lateral most is dentate nucleus. What is the shape of the dentate nucleus? It is crumpled paperback. The shape of this dentate nucleus is crumpled paperback. So it is the largest, it is the lateral most, and then crumpled paperback. Then which is the medial most nucleus? Already asked in your exam. So fastigial nucleus is the medial most nucleus. Medial most is fastigial. And then one more thing, out of all these 4 nuclei, the 2 in the middle, that is your emboliform and the globosal, are in the middle, and therefore these 2 nuclei together, emboliform and the globose nucleus together, are referred to as interpositus nucleus. Interpositus nucleus. Interpositus nucleus. Now, let me add one more point here. Out of all the 4 nuclei, which is the only nuclei which belongs to neocerebellum, the recent, the advanced one, neocerebellum. Remember, dentate nucleus is the one which will be belonging to neocerebellum part. It is the nucleus of neocerebellum. It is the only nucleus of neocerebellum. And apart from that, all these three will be the nuclei of paleocerebellum. All these, the remaining 3 will be the nuclei of paleocerebellum. But you have to remember one more important point here, additional point. Even though all the 3 nuclei belongs to paleocerebellum, the fastigial nucleus, this is the only one which will also belongs to your archaeocerebellum. Archaeocerebellum. So that is the nucleus of paleo as well as archaeocerebellum. So that is the nuclei of paleocerebellum as well as archaeocerebellum, guys. Perfect. So I'm trying to include like almost every MCQ in one single diagram here. So we are done. Largest dentate, lateralmost dentate, crumpled paperback appearance dentate, and then which is the only nucleus of neocerebellum? Dentate. Remaining all belongs to paleocerebellum. Medialmost will be the fastigial, interpositus will be the globosal and emboliform, and then archaeocerebellum, which also belongs to archaeocerebellum, will be fastigial one. Perfectly done. And if you still remember our planning here, let me just take you back to the same diagram again. If you still remember our planning, we are actually done with the cerebellar cortex, we are done with the white matter, the deep nuclei. Now the only thing which is left out is cerebellar peduncles. And we have to just remember like what are the tracts which are going to pass through the cerebellar peduncle here, so through the cerebellar peduncle. So let's move on to the next one, that is your tracts passing through cerebellar peduncle here. So now let's move on to the tracts passing to the cerebellar peduncles. And I already told you that there will be like 3 cerebellar peduncles. There will be superior, middle and inferior cerebellar peduncle. So midbrain with the cerebellum, superior cerebellar peduncle, pons with the cerebellum, that is nothing but the middle cerebellar peduncle, and medulla oblongata along with the cerebellum, that is connected with the help of inferior cerebellar peduncle. Now let us see what are the tracts. So first I am going to actually teach you about the tracts which are going to pass through the superior cerebellar peduncle. The superior cerebellar peduncle, and we are going to see like both the categories there, the afferent and the efferent, the tracts which are going to enter and leave. Now first welcome to the afferent, and the good thing here you already know about the ventral spinocerebellar tract. Try to recall when we learned about the ascending tracts and descending tract. In ascending category we have got spinocerebellar and we have got like 2 of them, the ventral and dorsal. Ventral spinocerebellar tract is going to ascend up, spinocerebellar. So ventral is going to ascend up and enter via the superior cerebellar peduncle. And also remember about the tectocerebellar tract. Now what are the efferents which are going to come out of the superior cerebellar peduncle here? The efferents are from the dentate nucleus. I told you already, cerebellum, the main efferent from the cerebellum will be the dentate one, dentate nucleus. So from the dentate nucleus to the thalamus, dentatothalamic tract, and then from the dentate nucleus to the red nucleus, that is nothing but the dentatorubral tract, and then other little bit important ones will be the cerebello-olivary tract and cerebello-reticular tract, guys. So whichever I have written here, the first 2, these are like most important ones that you got to remember them. So afferent tracts which are going to enter inside the cerebellum and the efferents via superior cerebellar peduncle. Now learn this, these are the most important ones that you got to know. Apart from that, welcome to the middle cerebellar peduncle. Now, one thing that I would like to tell you is that out of all the three cerebellar peduncles, the superior, middle and inferior, out of all the three cerebellar peduncles, remember the largest one will be the middle cerebellar peduncle. Largest one is middle cerebellar peduncle. And one more important thing is that it is like only purely afferent. Purely afferent. What is the meaning of this one? It consists of only the afferent tracts which are going to enter into the cerebellum. There are no efferent tracts from here. And the afferent tract from here, the most important one will be the cortico-pontocerebellar tract. It's from the cortex. Understand the meaning here. It is from the cortex coming down to the pons. And from the pons, obviously, we are learning about the middle cerebellar peduncle. The middle one is connecting the pons with the cerebellum. So, cortico-pontocerebellar tract. Extremely important. You have to remember this one, guys. See, actually, in the descending tracts, we have learned about pyramidal. And pyramidal tract is corticospinal tract. From the cortex, it is going down to the spinal cord. But what will happen is that the corticospinal tract is going down to the spinal cord, and from there the fibers are going to your limbs, upper limb, lower limb and the trunk, and they are concerned with the voluntary movements. But whenever the movements are being done, a copy of that movement has to be even given to cerebellum also, because cerebellum is also the one which is concerned with your maintaining the equilibrium, the positioning and all. That is the reason why corticospinal tract will go down to the spinal cord, from there to the limbs and trunks and all, controlling the movements, but a copy of that will be given to cerebellum also, and that is done by cortico-pontocerebellar tract. Cortico-pontocerebellar tract. That is why important to remember. And apart from that, reticulocerebellar tract also, another thing to remember here. No more efferents here, no need to worry about that one. Why? Because middle cerebellar peduncle is purely afferent. It will consist of only the afferent. Now do one thing, try to study in a very focused manner, or very tricky manner here, guys. Try to just learn about the tracts which are going to pass through superior cerebellar peduncle. These are important ones. And then the one which are going to pass through the middle cerebellar peduncle. Anything else which is given there, all of them will be passing through the inferior cerebellar peduncle here. So try to learn in a very tricky manner here, guys, so that you don't have to mug up like everything over there. So just learn the tracts passing through superior and tracts passing through the middle cerebellar peduncle. Anything else in the options, everything will be from the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So by this we complete the topic of cerebellum here, guys. So first look at the external features of cerebellum and classify into archaea, palea and the neocerebellum. And then the internal features. In the internal features of cerebellum, divide them into 4 categories. The outer part, cortex, cerebellar cortex, then the white matter, then the deep nuclei, the most important one, and then the peduncles itself, the cerebellar peduncles, like which tracts are afferent and efferent in that. I hope this is like clear concept here. That's all about the cerebellum. Thank you.